Hello everyone, welcome to day 4 of Launching 5. Today we have Ekansh. So I think today I'm going to speak very less because Ekansh is a very popular speaker in KubeCon. So I would like him to give a short introduction of all the KubeCons that he has attended, and also you'll be seeing him soon in North America. So yeah, Ekansh, can we start with that introduction and then move to the feature today?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Ikansh, and I'm a software engineer with SigNoz. And yeah, so we are going to talk about KubeCons first, and then we are going to jump into the feature that we are going to discuss. So, I started to attend KubeCons in 2021 as a scholarship recipient. I was just out of college, and I wanted to know what is there in the uh, like Kubernetes world, the cloud native world, and that from that time onwards, I have started, going deep dive into observability. What is these metrics? What are traces? What are logs, and all that stuff. And from 2022, when KubeCon was there in Amsterdam, I started giving sessions there. I wanted to disseminate my knowledge of whatever I have learned till now regarding observability and how we can integrate into observability into different things. So I have been to a lot of KubeCons from Amsterdam to Chicago and then in London and like various KubeCons. Last KubeCon was open telemetry like open telemetry integration with Backstage. And in the coming KubeCons, we are going to have like sessions around open telemetry integration with your Argo CD projects, pipelines, and how we are going to use LLMs for production environments and all that stuff. So yeah, you can catch me in Atlanta from 10th to 13th of November. And yeah, we can have a chat. And there's going to be a SigNoz booth as well. You can locate us in the solution showcase. And yeah, we can have a chat around observability and everything.
Oh, yeah. And I'll make sure that I'll be passing on this information to everyone that what is going to be a booth number and everything KubeCon related. And yes, so with that, Ekan, let's start talking about trace operators. So, what I understood is, I was going through the documents that you have already created. What I understand is we have a new query builder too, which
Yeah.
everyone has taken a look. Oh yeah, on the day two. I understand that it is very closely related to it because like it enhances the already easy experience to query. And I would like you to give a very overall or overview of the feature. Like what is it that we're looking at?
Yeah, sure. So, from the name trace operators, we clearly know that we are going to like talk about traces. So, what is there in traces? A trace is like a full-on request response map. A tree structure, the request comes into your system, and till the time it terminates, you are going to get a lot of spans, right? So it can start from a front-end service and it can go to your back-end service, and the back-end service can call another service and different spans. And then it can go to your database and then it can terminate there. So the problem with this is that whenever I am querying anything on my dashboard or my query builder, we are just looking at one particular span. So if I want a span which has a service name of, let's say, cart service, I am just looking into that and I'm going to either get my spans which service name is cart service or the traces which has spans whose service name is cart service, right? So, although this experience has been here till from the very beginning of time, I would say, but as an SRE or a DevOps or even an engineer, you need to figure out what are the relations between different spans in a particular trace. So when we had the earlier query builder, we couldn't do this. Now that we launched the new query builder, we are also launching the trace operators with that so that we can actually define relationships between two spans in a particular trace. So let's just say I want to figure out a database span which has originated from a service which is called frontend. And now I also want to check that if that database span has some error, right? So now I can figure that out. Earlier, I had to either query the front end span or I had to query a span with the database and an error. And this is two different things I am going to see, right? I will have to figure out, okay, if this database span has that parent anywhere in the whole tree which has that front end span or not, right? And this was too confusing for us till now. Now I can just write we have a service which has front end. I have a service which is database, I have that error, and we are going to make an operator which is going to define the parent-child relationship between these two. So this is mostly what is around trace operators.
Okay. So, Ekansh, are you saying that before we had trace operators, people were literally opening multiple tabs, multiple different tabs,
Ah,
and
yeah.
looking at the data using all the human intelligence to make or make sense of it? Was that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
only way
So
to go about it?
yeah, yeah. So there was no way where you can actually relate spans between like relate spans in a trace. So I had to open two different tabs, searching. Okay, this is my database span. Where is my parent span? What is the parent span? Is the parent span even front end? Is it so? It is not okay. Let's look at the different trace. So this is going to be a game changer. Why? Because now I do not need to be like looking into various tabs. Now I can just write a query, hit enter. I know that it is there. This is the trace I will open and I will figure it out.
So it is going to be much more faster. You're not playing a guess game.
Yeah.
You exactly know what is wrong. So with that, Ekansh, one question, before we look at the demo. Um, so yeah, what was the engineering challenge that you faced? Also that like did not allow you to introduce trace operator before, but now it has. So what were those foundational changes that you had to make?
Yeah. So engineering challenges, many. So earlier the whole query builder was an engineering challenge for us. So the way we wrote query builder earlier, we couldn't write or operators in any way, shape, or form. And now with the new query builder that we have already seen, we have the OR functionality, and now in trace operators as well, we are going to have a new OR functionality as well. So that was one of those engineering challenges. We have rewritten some of the database querying perspective, like challenges as well. We just simplified a bit from our perspective so that you have a better experience.
Yeah, perfect. Then let's take a look at it.
Sure. So
Yeah.
let's share screen. Okay. So we have our SigNoz running. I have gone to the Trace of Explorer tab. With the existing query builder and with the existing like traces and all that stuff, we have the list view, the trace view, the time series view, the table view. This has have gone through a beautified enhancement, I would say, and it looks a lot better, to be very honest, right? So now what we have is that we are looking into the data of the past 3 days, and we want to find out the service names, the spans which has service names as front end. So let's just look into it. We are going to make that whole example possible that I discussed earlier
Yes.
about the front end span and the database span and everything else. So what we are going to do is we are going to write service dot name is equals to front end service. Name is equals to front end, and we are going to store an query. So we are going to get all the spans which has names front end, and it can be anywhere in the whole trace, right? So it is here, it is here, it is all over the whole trace, right? Now I want to check if a trace has a database span. Let's just say Redis, and if it has errors or not. So what we will do is uh, Redis manual, and we are going to run it. And we are saying, yeah, we have some Redis manual spans as well. I don't know if this span has error. So I know this span has error because the waterfall model shows it. I don't know where it has originated from, right? So now what we can do is we can say that I want a front end, like I want a front end span. I want another span. So whenever we are creating a new query, it is going to say that if you do not give me a trace operator, I am just going to return from query A. So we have a new query which is service.name is equals to Redis manual. And also I want to check if this Redis manual span has an error or not. So and as error is equals to true. Right. So now I want to define a relationship between these two things, right? So I'm going to add trace matching. So we have trace operators. Whenever I click it, so it will show me all the queries that are available. I will click at A, and then I want to check if there is another query, like how am I going to make that whole relation? So we want an indirect descendant of this whole thing. So the front end span can be anywhere in the trace, and the Redis manual span can also be anywhere in the trace. It should it should be connected somehow.
Right.
So that is an indirect descendant. A direct
Mhm.
descendant is like the parent span of B is the A span, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to put an indirect descendant operator, and then I'm going to put in B, and then I'm going to run the query.
Yes.
As soon as we do that, it does some operations at the back end. It is going to give me a list of spans, and it is going to give me a list of spans with the service name frontend. So it is going to return the spans from query A,
Mhm.
and then it will also have spans from query B whenever we go to the waterfall model and see. So if we go there, we see that the front end span is there. Somewhere it is there. And we also see that Redis manual spans might be there also. So we are going to check if this is the Redis
Mhm.
manual span, and we see that there is a Redis manual span which has an error. So we
Mhm.
have a status code string error. So now we have finally found a trace where there is a span which is front end, and from that some span has originated in the whole trace where a database span is there, but it is giving us an error.
Got
So
it. Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
so a better example for this can be, so let's just say, okay, let's remove this and we are going to say, so earlier, last time in our launch week, we also introduced something called span search score, which was limiting our search space. And that was a good thing at that point of time. But I also told that we are going to talk about trace operators in the next launch week. So here we are. So what we are trying to do is now we are going to use our span search scope with trace operators to showcase that everything is like connecting with everything. So let's just say I want a front end span, which is also the root span of the trace. So I'm going to click root span. So it is going to give me a root something something. And because we did not edit this part out, so it is running on the older query that has been done. Let's just say if is some traces there, and there is some trace which has this condition also true. But I was trying to showcase something here, but okay, it is also true. So when I go there, so I see that the front end span is a root span of the whole trace.
Mhm.
And when I go into this error span, I see a database span which has an error. So the basic storyline that a SRE or a DevOps person might be figuring out is that yeah, I am in a fintech platform. Now what happened is that some person has gone to my application or my website, and then they have started entering UPI ID or
Mhm.
something is happening, and they are trying to send money, and they are at the checkout, and some and everything is working. The customer spans are also there, the route spans are also there. So it is a very good trace to actually talk about. So everything is there. So the whole thing is working, but something is going wrong with the database. We have seen that from logs. So
Mhm.
I want to figure out what is that particular trace which has this
Right.
problem. So I am going to find that trace which has originated with the root span of the front end, then a database span which has an error.
Yes.
So this is as simple as it can get. And apart from that, we are just in the list view where we are seeing the spans, right? We can also go into the traces view as well. So if I go to the traces view, I am directly going to get the traces which has these problems. So I am going to get a list of traces rather than a list of spans. And I can see what is the root span duration, what is the trace duration, and everything which is going wrong in this. So we have a bunch of traces with the same problem, and I can click on any trace, and I am 101% sure with this that this trace operator function is going to find me that particular span which is going on. So
Right.
if I find this get driver span, I am sure that this is a Redis manual span which has an error. This is where the error is. What is the error? I can go into the whole attributes and I can figure out what is the error, what was the problem, and everything else. But this is not limited to this, only the spans list or the traces view. The thing is that it is also possible with the time series and the table view.
Okay.
So let's just go to the table view. So what happens here is that let's just say this is the whole condition that we have done. And we have said that I want an indirect operator for A to B, and I want the count of these particular traces. So I am getting a count of these particular traces. So now what I can do is, let's just say we are going to write customer as some span, and we are going to hit enter. We are going to find out those traces. I found those traces. Now what I can do is I can group by. net.peer.name, or any of the groupings that you like. Every attribute that you have, you can group by that. And I can stage and run query and I can figure out these particular traces grouped by that particular uh, attribute. So probably net.peer.name is not populated. So it is giving me an NA. So, but trace operator is giving me the full value of that particular trace, right? So I can go into the time series as well, and we are going to get a graph of how many traces and when it was there. So I am getting this whole thing that at probably 8 p.m. on 2nd of September, I had like 477 different traces about like for that. And then from like 3rd September, we do not have anything. So
True.
either the trace operator is not getting me that whole particular span because they do not exist, or we do not have traces from the 3rd of September. So let's check that if our trace operators is giving us some bad data or what is happening. So let's do that. We are going to remove everything. We are going to uh, just remove everything. So let's hide that. Let's hide that, and we are going to run and stage query. Okay, no traces yet. So let's see if we have any traces anywhere in the system. Delete. Okay, so a query cannot be deleted. Yeah. So if we see, we do not have any, like we do not have any ingestion from
Yeah.
3rd September. So that is the whole reason why our trace operators wasn't showing anything. It wasn't the
True.
trace operators fault, right? So the thing is that trace operators is not limited to just the trace explorer page. What we can do is we can also go to our alerts, and we can create a new alert rule, and we can go to a trace based alert, and we will have a whole trace operator functionality here as well. The same thing that you saw in trace explorer is going to be there in alerts, and the same thing is also going to be there in dashboards as well. So if I go to a dashboard and I create a new dashboard, so let's just create a new panel. I am going to create a new table view, and we are going to switch between dashboards. That is not a problem. So we are going to switch to traces. I am going to write service dot name is equals to front end, and we are going to add a trace matching as well. So it is going to tell me that, oh, please create a new trace as well, like the a span query as well. So we are going to write something like service dot name is equals to customer.
Right.
Let's just find a trace which has front end spans but not customer spans. So what we are going to write is a, and with the not operator and then the b, and then we are going to stage a query. So there is no particular trace which has this thing where the front end span has originated but the customer span is not there in the whole trace. So let's just say okay, a and b, is that possible? So let's just check that as well. So a and b, is there any span which has front end, might or might, like, and the customer span might or might not have originated from front end? Let's just see that. So that is also giving us a bad result. Okay, so that is giving us, oh, okay, so count is there. So count should not be here. I am going to delete that. And then I am going to write this table. Okay, I wanted a list here. So I am going to add, so the list view does not have this. Let's just go to some other view. Let's just go to the time series view. And we are going to write A and B, and let's just see what is going on there. Oh, last one date. So one day data, last one day data wasn't there. So that's the problem.
That's right.
What was the problem? This is the problem. Now we are debugging live. What is the problem here? And we saw some data. So there is some data. Now there is this data. So let's just see now A not B is true also or not. If there is any span which is not originating and getting me a customer. So let's do that. And
So,
there
Akash,
is,
for now, can we only use two queries at a time to build relations
no,
in between?
we can have multiple queries. So we can have
Okay.
this as well. So let's just go to, okay, my bad. So let's just go to traces. We can have any number of has error is equals to true. And then I can also write a and indirect B or C.
Mhm.
I can write that. And it means that the front end span can give me a span which is customer or can give me a span which has an error. And I can stage and run query and find that out as well. So we are going to get a number of values in the time series table. Let's wait for
Right.
that.
Yeah.
If there is any. Yeah, so there is some data there as well. If I go to the list view, I might get some things as well,
Mhm.
and we get a lot of things. So earlier we were figuring out why that wasn't there. Okay,
True.
so and let's go to the number column as well, and we will get the number as well for this. So let's just see. So we have 213 traces, which matches this whole condition. So just build whatever you logically think
Yes.
in your head is a possible thing that I want to query in traces, you can.
Right. So
And
you
that
can
is,
even,
yeah,
yeah, even when we're looking at the query builder, right, in
yeah,
day two, that is what I like, that now you don't have to sit with a problem, convert it into a mathematical expression, test one, if you fail, repeat that entire process. Now you're actually using your logical reasoning to debug the problem. So even
yeah,
if you have a deep, a business problem in hand, you are going through it logically, just the payment, the fintech company example that you gave,
yeah,
right? Like if people are not getting through in the checkout, the obvious reason is that something is happening maybe with the third party API or something at very specific. But now, how many times will you write it as a mathematical expression? Come use it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. If you are thinking something and
Yeah,
you can think it in a generic English sentence, you can write it and you can execute it with trace operators.
true.
So now we have given that functionality, and this is not a functionality which has been only requested by users. I wanted this functionality as well because I wanted to debug things, and now I can because I built it myself.
And
So
we just
now
had
I
an
can.
example of it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that is the whole thing, and we can go to traces and
Irash, before
uh,
we move to that, right? Because now you have, taken me through the entire trace operator functionality. Now it is very difficult for me to imagine what existed before. So can you just give me a hypothetical example? Like if we ran into something similar, what we would have done with our older views? Like
yeah.
what,
So
how,
what?
yeah, yeah, like how you would have gone about it.
Yeah, so let's just assume that we do not have a trace matching
Yes.
functionality, all right? So what would we have done is something like service dot name is equals to Redis manual and has error is equals to true. And then figure out from here if their parent, any of this parent going into the traces, any of this span's traces is a front end span or not. Right? So I need to
Yes.
go there and figure out, okay, is this the trace that I am looking at? Is this the trace that I want? Okay, this is probably, okay, in this scenario, we found it. But there might be scenarios where I did not find it, and that is the whole problem. So
True.
what I can do is, let's just say that I wanted to have a trace.
Mhm.
Let's just write this index and just write service dot name is equals to cart service. Now just let's find a trace which has cart service and has Redis manual and the Redis manual span has an error.
Yes.
Let's just do that, right? So A and B. So this is giving me a trace where cart service might not be an indirect parent of this particular span, right?
Yes.
So if I run and find, there is no like there is no trace which is finding this. So
Right.
earlier, what I would have done is earlier I would have figured it out from I would have gone to this particular span. I would have found out the spans which are cart service. I would have gone here and I would have seen if there is any span with Redis manual here in the service list. What is the execution time? I see a front end span is there with cart service. So what I could have done earlier is front end, so front end, and when I like went through this, I would have found that particular trace and not probably the trace which has Redis manual.
Right.
Then I would have gone to another trace which has Redis manual and figured out what the trace was. So
Yes.
now I can just do this root spans I can put a trace query service dot name is equals to cart service, and then I can just say, okay, add trace matching A indirect B, and then I can just hit enter and figure out if there is any trace with the whole condition being there. So, okay, so
Yeah.
there might not be a trace where the front end is the root span, which is calling the cart service, right? But let's just say if this is not there and
Mhm.
we are just doing that, if that is possible. So yeah, we are getting this. So there is a trace where the front end is there, the cart service is also
Yes.
there. Might be a possibility that the cart service is not a direct or an indirect descendant of the front end span. So we are going there and we are figuring out. Okay, so yeah, so this is happening here. So the front end span is here. The cart service span can be somewhere down the line. So the cart service span is here. It
Yes.
is very far from that, and the front end span wasn't the root span as well here. The root span is missing here in the whole trace. So I
Right.
don't know what the root span is. That is why the trace wasn't visible earlier. So this is how, and there might be a possibility earlier, like I was querying on front end, I got this span, I wanted to check where is my database span. Okay, this is not the trace with the database
Yeah.
span. I will go to the other span with like other trace and figure out is that the trace with the database span. So that is what we have simplified. We can
Yes.
have as many queries as we want. We can logically put all the operators that we want. If I want, let's just say if I want, so like spans
Mhm.
from a trace, which are not like the trace should not have a front end span, right? So I am just
Yes.
going to write not a, and that should work for me. So let's just see what it shows.
Yes.
Okay, not O, my bad, not a. Um, let's just see what is happening.
But even while we're doing this, right, I could see that sense of frustration between the older experience and now.
Yeah,
In the older experience, you were constantly clicking on something, you were breaking the current context, moving on to something, again returning back, trying to gain that context. But here, even though we're experimenting, it's all happening in one screen. And I think from the user experience perspective, that's a huge bump already. Because now you're not losing context, you've not lost the sight of how did you start solving that very problem. You're building on top of it, and that
yeah.
experience in
So
itself.
yeah, so we found out all the span which are not front end span. We click there. We have
Yes.
the currency span. It is not a trace with front end.
Yeah.
I am very much happy that I found this trace.
True.
So that is how we have simplified things. We just wanted a way to actually build relationship between spans in a trace. And
Right.
now we are here. So we have now figured out how to do that, and now we are launching trace operators for the same thing. To be very honest,
Fabulous.
yeah, there might be a problem from the customer side, but it was a huge pain in the like in my brain. So now I have built it so that the whole experience is much better for me at least.
True. True. You have felt that pain so deeply that you actually
Yeah,
went and solved
exactly.
it.
I just wanted it to be there.
Yes. But I think even while you're just taking me through the entire problem solving mechanism, I can see the value. So I can't wait for our customers to actually test it. I'm going to chase them and keep asking them that what is
Yes,
the
please.
difference that they feel.
Yeah,
Because
so we have a
one,
lot.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
please go
so
ahead.
yeah,
Yes.
so we have a lot of customers which are currently e-commerce and fintech customers, and they have already asked us, can we do this earlier? And we always said no. Just wait for the new query builder to come in. No, we do not have an or functionality. No, we do not have a direct indirect relationship functionality. Now we have, and
Yes.
you please feel free to use that because now we actually know how it feels to just query away and find solutions rather than just have to do hit and trial.
True, true. I think Akash, even your excitement shows it, right? I'm going to definitely go back and look at the video when you had promised trace operator, and I'm going to actually match if you were equally excited to debug back then versus now.
Yeah, back then the whole query interface was very different from what it is
Yeah.
currently. The Trace Explorer tab looked very different from what it looks right now, and it hands off to everyone who has contributed till now. It looks much cleaner. It looks much easier to use, and I like it. I want to use it. I did not like I would not say I did not like. I would like to say that I like this experience much
Yes.
better.
And you build it for yourself. So
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
So, Ekash, one question I have, right? So, in last launch week, we saw Trace Funnel, which was an industry first feature, right?
Yeah.
And with that, I already have a strong sense that we are moving towards a path where we want the observability data to be used for business purposes. Am I
Mhm.
right with that understanding?
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, trace funnels was obviously a very innovative feature. Also, the external API infrastructure monitoring, everything is very innovative things that we have done with OpenTelemetry. This shows how we correlate different metrics, spans, traces, logs into one particular pane so that everyone gets what they are actually looking for and not just numbers on a screen, right?
Yes.
Although I am not going to say that race operators is an industry first, probably other people might have had it. But yeah, now comes the whole point again that we want everyone to figure out what they were actually looking for. And this is a more, uh, I would like to say, it solves your problem with MTTR, which is mean time to resolve. It
Yes.
solves your problem with MTTD, which is mean time to detect. I do
Right.
not have to figure out things myself. I just know I can think about it, so I can write about it.
Yes.
And if I can write about it, I can query it. It is that simple for us.
True, true. Because even when I was trying to use Trace Funnel, right, I remember the problem that I was going through because back then we did not have the new query builder and, of course,
Yeah,
no trace operators. So I remember that, my Vishal had created a funnel for me, for me to look at. And then the problem was that, okay, I'm looking at this funnel. I can click, I can look what is happening in every trace, how many spans exist. Now, if I want to query something as someone who does not know SQL, I do not know how to write a query.
exactly.
And then even the business, like the business proposition of trace funnel or any other feature that existed also till a point became useless for me, because okay, now I need help, I need someone to help me write that query. Only then I can go and dig further, and if I need that help, then already me as a marketer, I cannot really use that data, I can see
Exactly.
it.
So, to be very honest, we are going into this whole shift in observability, where the observability uh, should be very much in my face. Rather than me deep diving into that particular thing, I want it to be there in my face. It should be there. I should know what is wrong with my features, where it is wrong, and even if I have to query something, it should be very easy for me. It should be coming very naturally to me,
Right.
right? Earlier, I had to learn SQL. I had to figure out, okay, service name in front end, in this, in that, and all that stuff. Now you don't have to.
True. Yeah,
It is very simple. Like for a business person, for a marketing person, for anyone and everyone who just wants to use an observability tool to figure out what is wrong, they do not have to sit with an engineer or a DevOps person to do that.
yes. And I
You
see
can
so
just go
much.
ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see so much value in that, right? Because we have such granular details into us in our system. But like if like yeah, unless I don't have an engineer friend in my company, I don't think I'm going to be able to use. I think that is more painful. Now I know I'm looking at the problem, but I cannot do anything about it. That is more painful than not knowing.
So yeah, that's the whole observability shift that we are going to. That
Yes,
anyone and
Akash.
everyone should be able to use it, and it should be very natural to everyone.
Yes. So, Akash, going, following the same path, are we expecting some more features inside Trace? Because I've been quite excited about Traces, I think even SigNoz in its journey picked up Trace a little later, is what, I understand. And
Trace is a very powerful tool. Um, uh, According to me, I used to use logs a lot. I used to get the stack trace, the logs, and everything, and I know where is the problem. But traces are even more powerful because now I have the visibility into the entire system rather than one particular application, right? So that is the whole point of traces. And we picked up trace very late, I would say yes. But to be very honest, we have the trace operators. I would like to say that I think we have reached parity and we have done more than that as well. With respect to upcoming features, uh, yeah, things are there in the pipeline. So we have something called span percentiles in the pipeline. I'm not sure if we are going to talk about that in the next launch week, but span percentiles are going to be there, and we have very nice, like, nice to have changes, quality of life improvements coming up. Uh, and we also have some more features that I know coming up, and I have to develop them. But yeah, rather than development, I am more into research. Okay, if this is possible or not, if it is possible, then how to do it. So we are going to query on span events, and
Yes.
we are going to talk about that probably in the next launch week as well. I am not sure. But yeah, I would like to have that personally as well. I will tell you the problem later down the
Yeah.
line when I'm doing that launch. But yeah, span events is also something that is in the pipeline. Span percentile is there. Some improvements to the trace detail page is also coming. So yeah, quality of life improvements all over the trace explorer and the trace detail page.
Perfect, perfect. And I think just since last few months, I've been seeing major changes in the UX overall our product
Yeah.
also. So I'm super excited. You know what's coming next. And Akash, again, by since we are closing now, I would like you to again drop in the information on what topics are you taking up when you go to KubeCon next.
Okay, so I have 4 sessions coming up in KubeCon. So two of them are in ArgoCon. One is there in Open Feature Summit. One is there in the main stage on KubeCon. So the KubeCon topic is how we are going to use like LLMs and MCPs for productionizing our environment. Earlier, we used Terraform and we used to have a very declarative approach of how we are doing stuff in a Kubernetes workflow. But not now. We can just use an MCP like something like Kagent or Kite or something like that. Apart from that, we have a couple of talks in Argo CD Day, which is Argo Day. Sorry. So in the Argo Day, we are going to talk about how like your deployments, your pipelines, and everything, how they have integrated with OpenTelemetry and how we can actually observe them with different observability tool and hopefully SigNoz. So SigNoz has already written a blog on Argo with OpenTelemetry. So that's going to be a big reference as well. Apart from that, we have a couple of talks regarding open feature and how we are going to roll back a deployment if we see that our features are giving us some error. And this also have some open telemetry built into it. Like it is going to trigger an alert and all that stuff. And then it goes into rollback state and how we are doing testing and A/B testing and everything there. So that is also upcoming. And the fourth talk is all about how we are going to manage our Argo workflows and our LLM workflows and how to make it more observable.
That is awesome. I think all the topics are so relevant thanks to AI. So yes, I'm super excited for all the talks because I'll be listening to them remotely. But yeah, for anyone who is actually attending Atlanta's KubeCon, please get hold of Akash. Make sure he gives you the swag. Don't leave him otherwise. So yeah, that's it, Akash. It was wonderful chatting with you, and see you again soon in the next launch
Yeah.
week.
Thank you so much. Nice talking to you, Anushka. And I hope everyone likes the trace operator features. And whenever it launches, please go and just play with it and let me know how you feel about it.
Oh, amazing! Thank you.
Thank you so much.